We should be live any second now. Sending the data over. I think we're live now.
Yes, I think we are too. Welcome to episode 21 of the podcast Unlimited Wisdom with Robert Hollis. I'm Craig A. Jackman along with Matthew Hollis, and we are so glad to have you with us today. We want to thank you so much for joining us and for hitting that subscribe button with the bell on the button below to be notified when we do these podcasts and when they are available. Also, please hit that like button. That's the one with the thumbs up, and it helps us to send out this message and grow our community. Thank you very, very much. Gentlemen, let's get started. Matt, Robert, welcome. Great to see you guys today.
Well, thank you very much, Greg. Thank you, Matt. Always fun to talk to you guys.
Do you have anything that you want to start with, Dad? I'm just making sure that everybody's got the link to hop on here and stuff live. So
yeah, very cool. Well, I normally when we jump on this, I know Craig came up with a pretty good concept, as far as creativity and I was thinking, wow, we just come on here and just talk. I think that the thing that I think we should probably go down the road is what to do when the noise gets louder.
And so now that is interesting topic.
Yeah, because I just really think that you go back before the internet and before cell phones, and life was pretty freaking quiet. You know what I mean? It was really, really, really quiet. You know what I mean? To think that you had to go out of your way, to go to your job, and some people, usually when you're working, it's like you're supposed to be working. You got the thing where you hang around a water cooler, or maybe you have some lunch and some breaks. But most of the jobs that I had was, everyone's working. It's like, hey, that's what people got to do to make ends meet. And then all of a sudden the cell phones came out, and then the internet came out, and then social media came out. And I think that people are just really, really uncertain, uncertain today. And lot of people, doing everything in their power. And unfortunately, when I say this statement, people are going to go, not me, because that's the what is it? The Dunning-Kruger effect or whatever?
Dunning-Kruger effect.
Dunning-Kruger effect. The whole concept of, people really think they know it all. And in the midst of knowing it all, or feeling maybe that you don't know it all, but you know what you need to know. And then all of a sudden, I think people are just a little blown away when all of a sudden the noise just ratchets up a little more than they ever thought it could be, and so, we make the joke all the time that, I told people this when I was really, really young. I had to watch TV through a mirror because the TV would be all messed up. We only had 3 channels. So I was always told that I needed to go up and hang on to the rabbit ears and move them. And then when the picture got exactly where it needed to be, I couldn't move. So I just had to watch TV through a mirror, because if I moved, then the TV messed up. Now, I'm joking, of course. But the whole point of it is, man, it's just the rhetoric and the, everything is just getting louder and louder and louder. And me and Matt and Craig were talking right before we jumped on here, is that the amount of stuff that AI can generate now, so people that are making money from social media right now, I wish that even AI probably couldn't answer this, but I would just like to ask people, what percentage of stuff that you see online or through a text or through an email, what percentage of you that just you just wonder whether or not this stuff is true anymore?
Wow.
And
well, yeah.
And I made a post today that I made a post today that I think that people, and it was so funny. One of the people that reached out and told me right away was David Beckley, which is one of my best friends that moved out to California with me to build race cars. And I just put, hey, before you post, why don't you think? Is this kind? Is this thoughtful? Is it true? I forget some of the other ones, but it was like Craig, I know, was looking it up, and it's Craig always is. But I never even thought about this. What I could do really quick
Is
is
it
just,
true? Is it helpful? Is it inspiring? Is it necessary? And is it kind?
yeah. And the hardest thing with people right now is I think that, and when people hear this, that that's why, if you're a know-it-all, this doesn't help you at all. I'm a poet and I didn't even know it. But it's like the whole concept is very simply this, is when you realize that you don't know everything and you don't want to know everything, and you focus on what you have control over is your reaction to this stuff, then what you can do is cloud out all the distractions of the stuff that doesn't matter. And it's easy in this day and age to say something because you're just saying stuff to say stuff. And I think that people are really realizing that, whoa, I jumped the gun and I said something, and now I'm getting chastised and I lost my job and my whole life is messed up. And it was like you just basically posted something before you knew all the facts. And here's the crazy thing. I know a lot of people that are on both sides, and all over the world this is happening, and other places. When you hear news from the wars that are going on, or you hear any kind of information from anything, it's like, what is the truth? And one of the things I loved all the time is when I heard the first phrase that, truth has a number of perspectives. There's a lot of people out there that think that they know the truth. And really what they're doing is they're just basically, forwarding or commenting or reposting a bunch of stuff that they don't know is true. And here's the point that I think that I'll make, and then I'd love to hear your guys' comments. It's like as human beings, we really, really have a difficulty getting caught up in other people's shit. It's just crazy how I can remember again when I was younger, when I was uncertain and not confident of myself, that if anyone talked with any kind of conviction or confidence, I was like, really? Oh my God. And then before cell phones and the internet, I can remember going home and telling my wife or telling some friends, hey, did you hear about this? And then find out total bullshit.
Right.
And so you guys go ahead and jump in.
It
Go
goes
ahead, Craig.
back to what one of the previous podcasts about when we were talking about bullshit.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a continuation, especially with some of the current events that are taking place right now with the political conventions, one that's going now and the one that's going to be coming up, and how we perceive these two gentlemen that supposedly are going to represent us in the White House and be the people who also bring people with them to help guide and steer our country.
Correct.
It used to be, and this is another reference to something that I made in an earlier podcast. It used to be that the news was always delivered on fact,
Right.
period.
They would
So
leave their opinion out of it.
and leave exactly. When you watched many of the early newscasters, I think it was just straight ahead news. Here's what happened. Maybe one news program had a different perspective in the sense of, okay, here's the angle they took, and then here's the angle they took. But it was always the president said this, or the congressperson said this, or the judge said this. And it was all based on rule of law and
Yeah.
fact and events that took place. And if it didn't take place, then there was maybe a little bit of speculation about, okay, if it's true, it's this. If it's not true, it's this.
Right.
And it's not and that's the way it was. Then the news got deregulated. Now, of course, this is on my perspective, what I am saying here.
Sure.
Um, when the news organizations who were considered money losses to all of the networks.
Oh, totally. It's like a public service announcement.
Exactly. So that was included in what was supposed to be their public service to the community, were their newsrooms, and where journalism was based on fact. And now you have channels, and I'm not even going to call them.
Thank you, Ted Turner.
Exactly.
Ted
You
Turner
now have
Ted Turner turned it into 24-hour news, and it's like 24 hours. We're gonna have to make up some shit.
And that's where Fox News came in, because Turner, when he created CNN, it was news. And okay, yes, it was boring. Unless there was a live event that they were covering that they didn't know what was going to happen. Then it was exciting. And people got the idea, oh, we need to make the news exciting. Well, then it's not news. Then it becomes opinion. And that's where you have your CNBC, your Fox, your Breitbart, your Newsmax. And now it seems like CNN is going the opposite direction to counter all this, because now these news organizations have to make money to survive. What do? They try to get the eyes to watch them, and add that with the social media that is there, where people also taking on the fact of, I got freedom of speech. I can say what I want. Well, freedom of speech is only as far as good as how true is it. And the problem is that it's been bastardized since in my opinion, since the deregulation of news. And now we are where we are, is like, no, because my tribe says this and it's not part of what, and your tribe says that, I'm not going to believe what that is because my tribe says this. That's wrong. And people don't take the initiative to say, well, wait a minute, let's actually take a look at it. In a two-party system, it's supposed to be what's best for the community, for the whole, for everybody. It's not anymore. And it's the reason, one of the main reasons, in my opinion, why we have such a big split in the political beliefs and in beliefs of individuals and how we get along with people.
Yeah, and it's also the division. The division is never in my life did I ever think that I would see polls on 2 to 3 different groups within the same party.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, so there's division within every political realm. And so it's like churches, probably people are going to get upset that I say this, but I've always said it. In America, there's over 400,000 registered religions. And you got Baptists, and then, the assistant pastor doesn't get along with the pastor. And then there's regular Baptists, and then they don't get along. So then there's Premium Baptists, and then Southern Baptists. And I'm making light of this, but if every leader has a voice, and I should take the word away, if every person has a voice, not a leader, but in this day and age, it's all based on your following, your influence, who you have. I said this years ago when I first seen someone that came on and I go, who's this? You know what I mean? And just throwing an example out here. Today we got Robert Hollis. He's got, 1 million followers, and he's got X amount of million views, and that's supposed to mean something.
Yeah, it's all that. Other people.
Go ahead.
No,
well, go ahead, Craig.
Go ahead, Matt. No, I was just going to say, and then you have other people who are, let's just say, YouTube influencers that have a completely different point of view, and people follow them.
Yeah. I mean, that's how it is, like when society is always going to adapt to whatever the generation before deems the right way to go. So if you grow up your entire life with being surrounded by opinionated news, odds are you're going to want opinionated news. You don't know it any other way. My generation and stuff, I'd say that because social media exists and the internet, there's like these pockets of it that exist now more so where, like you were saying, Craig, where it's more one voice. But what's so interesting about it is every time something new happens, I feel like the opinionated news cycle seems to do exactly the same thing as exactly what you referenced, Dad, like people with not Christianity in general, but just in general, like religion, where it's like we have to each have our own interpretation of what the facts are, and
Correct.
there's a difference. There's a difference in each group and what that is, right? So you end up having these different separate groups of people that believe just an inkling of difference than the other group of people. And this is where you have extreme division, because you can't have an agreement. It's not even like an agreement on facts. It's an agreement on reality, right?
On
Because
how
like,
you feel.
exactly.
On
Because
how
the
you
thing,
feel.
the thing about facts is that they become subjective because the cycle exists now where you can make money off of it. So since you can make money off of it, there's always going to be a large group of people that, and this is something like even Dad, you'd share with me when I was growing up, but there's going to be a large group of people that are going to try to influence another group just to make money off of them. You know, like my generation calls them grifters, right? Like these are people that, you know, for a fact.
Say that word again.
Grifters. It's like somebody, it's somebody that
That's
like
been around for a while though, Matt.
I've never heard the phrase.
But it's
I haven't heard
definitely,
it.
it's definitely like what you would call like a conservative or liberal pundit person that you know for a fact does not believe the things that they're saying, but they're saying them for clout, which is like, I'm trying to grow my following. I'm trying to
like shock, like Howard Stern used to be called a shock jock.
Yeah,
Oh,
well,
I
I mean,
remember
that's,
that word
you know,
going around. Yeah.
Eminem's new album just came out, and it's like a lot of the songs are, it's like him battling himself, right? Because he's got like this Slim Shady persona that will like say anything offensive, and this was the old Eminem, right? Like he'd say anything that was offensive, including like murder and all these different kinds of things. I don't need to go into detail, but it's everything, basically. And so his new album is like it's called The Death of Slim Shady. And it's basically him going back and forth with this version of himself that constantly wants to like make a mess of things. You know what I mean? That whether it's addiction or whether it's any of those things, right? He even has this one song that like really is an emotional song that he wrote called Temporary about his daughters. And it's from the point of view as if he had overdosed when he was addicted to drugs and didn't get to see them grow up. And so it's like him being temporary in their lives instead of the permanent person that raised his daughters, right? So like it's interesting because in those different spectrums of what you guys are talking about, I think that exists in all of us, and that's why it's so interesting. Because when I hear the Eminem album, immediately what happens is you have a group of people that are offended by what he's saying instead of listening to what he's saying or trying to understand. This is the same with like Kendrick Lamar's lyrics, or there's a lot of other people that make art that people misinterpret because they have to have their own opinion on it. They're not willing to. That's like another really huge problem right now, is that everybody needs to have an opinion, myself included. I'm like sitting here giving you my opinion, right?
Right.
But I do think collectively it's hard to get to a finite version of like, hey, this is the truth, this is what we should believe, this is what we should go after in this day and age, because there's no clear-cut voice on what that should be. I would say that it's impossible in this day and age for that to exist, at least in a human sense. Like I've said before, I think AI could maybe fit in that because it's more of a concrete.
I believe that the second that I learned that from my mentors. You know, we did a lot of podcasts and videos about that. When I had Roger Penske, a billionaire, get in my face and make a point out of me, which was positive for me. But he just really got in my face about, how do you know that? And then he basically said to me the consequences from basically saying something, and sort of a dark pathway that could happen that, you know, makes a wife a widow and
it's my anxiety. I mean, that's honestly like my OCD thoughts. It's like if I don't write this down, three things down the line, an asteroid's gonna strike and like kill everybody.
So the what ifs, and it's so funny, Matt, that you just brought that up, because I would say an opposite side of that would be someone that's like sort of optimistic and unrealistic. They're so good at lying to themselves and listening to things that they're going like everything's okay.
Who do you think
Everything's going to
lives a
be
better
awesome.
life?
And you're
Yeah.
going, yeah, but you're going like, do you know that those dreams or those imagination have to come with some action?
That's one of those really
Huh?
interesting things because it's based off of how much you need from others, right? Because there's a lot,
Right.
like there's particular painters or artists, right, that became famous after they died, right? Because they were just not sharers of their art. There's this one artist in particular, I can't remember his name exactly, but I believe he's French. But after he passed away, they went into his house, right? And started tearing doing some changes to the house, renovations. So they start tearing off the wallpaper and realize that he had painted the walls of the whole entire house and then wallpapered over it. So
Wow.
that's one of those types of things, right? Where it's like, okay, who am I to say that because he wasn't famous in his lifetime or because he didn't want to share his art with everybody and he's now famous, that he chose the wrong path just because he was capable of enjoying his art himself without needing the reliance of everybody else to say you're doing a good job here.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think
Well,
that's
that
a
goes
really good
to
place to share it
trusting
from.
yourself, doesn't it? I mean,
Well, it all goes back to trusting yourself. It's like,
oh gosh, yeah.
Matt was talking about this thing. We go back and forth. I remember one time when I first heard that, people have 6 human needs. So we have certainty, uncertainty, significance, love, and connection. And then from the sort of spirit side or whatever you want to believe, there's personal growth. You want to continue to grow to get better at other things. And then there's a thing called contribution. But what I always thought was very unique is that if you listen to the first, it's like, the devil on one arm and shoulder and the angel on the other.
Right.
It's like,
Yes.
so we really truly want certainty. God, we just strive to just, hey, I hope I'm living here tomorrow. I pray I got food. I pray I got electricity. And that's where a lot of people really get messed up in their lives because they take all that stuff for granted. You know what I mean? They don't have a good attitude for it and they're not grateful for it. But yet on the other shoulder, you got, I need to do some different shit.
Well, it's a sense of perspective
I gotta
insanely, right?
tighten things up,
Yeah.
So a
'Cause if you
majority of the
came-
time, you're driving the speed limit and
Right.
you're on cruise control and you're halfway paying attention. And then all of a sudden someone cuts you off or you see like the roads closing and it's like, why?
Well, it's like the envy is the thief of joy type of thing, right? It's like you can want something that someone else has, but the reality is that you somewhere along the way you're probably going to get like what you actually wanted. You were just desiring something that you didn't know. And I think that that's one of those interesting things is like the more you're willing to put yourself out there and find those separate things that maybe make you trust yourself a little bit more. And what I mean by trust yourself is like, instead of other people telling you that you are good at something or that you should be doing this thing, that you're actually doing the stuff that you enjoy to do, right? Like the stuff that you do for free. And I think like there's so many, I'm finding this in my own life, right? But I think that there's so many people that are kind of stuck in that loop. You know what I mean? Of like, I trust myself now and now I don't trust myself. And then how do I get back to this place, right? How do I build? And it's like the truth is like I never really trusted myself if I was good at doing things for others. My trust, because like I'm very confident in my ability to help other people. But my confidence in my ability to take what I want personally, that's not connected to anyone else. So like I was saying, like I'm one of those people that's not going to paint the walls and wallpaper over it. That's not how I work mentally, right? Like I love to share aspects of who I am with people. So I'm in a little bit of a conundrum, right? Because that forces you to grow. And to do that, you have to trust yourself. So to trust yourself, you have to do some shit that makes you believe you can actually do it, right?
But see, getting to that point is is, as you're saying, is very, very tough, because you rely on, as you've said, you rely on other people to value what it is that you are doing.
Yeah.
And in order to know the proper direction that you are going in many
Right.
cases. And that's what people don't understand is, yeah, the yin and yang of it. I think that's what you're going after,
Yeah,
Robert,
no
is the yin and
doubt, no
yang.
doubt.
Because yes, and let's say the victories and the challenges. Okay. Because how else are you going to know the proper direction for you to go and how to navigate with society? In the case we've discussed before, you may have been raised in this particular culture that believes in this way. Then you move to another society with another culture, and they don't believe that way. They may have 70% of the beliefs that you have, but to navigate that new culture, you've got to understand, learn, and work with that 30%
Right.
that makes you a little bit off. And so it's a matter also of understanding that in
Right.
order to move forward and learning what you can and what you can't do. Trial and error. How many times did Thomas Edison take to get to the light bulb? 10,000 not necessarily errors, but challenges
Right.
until he found the right
Things
combination.
things that lead you to another. And I just brought up certainty and uncertainty. That's yin and yang, right? And then I think the next two are pretty interesting. Is it yin and yang? So we all strive to feel special and valued, significance, to be
Yeah.
recognized. And please listen when I say this, but that's a part of, it sounds pretty selfish. I love the concept of, a drowning person can't help to a drowning person. And so then what's the other human need right behind that? Love and connection. It's like, hey, this is about me being the best that I can be and lighten up the scoreboard. And then the other need that I have is, to encourage my other teammates and make sure that if I'm so good that I can assist them and being a better person than they are, right? And one of the things that go down in history is they always talked about whether you like him or not, but they said the amount of time that Tom Brady spent with his wide receivers over and above what you have to do as a job. It was like his wide receivers just said, "Man, he treated us like his kids." You know what I mean? The things he did for us and the things that they helped us. And so now they as that connection, they wanted to do more. They wanted to go the extra mile to make their friend Tom Brady happy. Well, that creates, different patterns and different ways of running to know that the receiver is so good that he knew exactly when to hit him when they broke away. So you don't set records in Super Bowl in passing yardage if you don't have someone that's catching the ball. You know what I mean? It's like, he goes down in history as being the GOAT, but every pass that guy threw, every touchdown that guy scored, every first down that they got, someone caught that damn ball. It's
And
like,
it's interesting that you bring up that kind of a relationship, Robert, because okay, just looking at it from the football perspective, the quarterback to receiver relationship. I mean, you can go back to Joe Montana and Jim Rice. I think that it
Jerry,
was Jim. I'm
Jerry.
sorry, Jerry Rice. I'm sorry. Thank you, Jerry Rice. Sorry, Mr. Rice.
Yeah.
Um, but it's like he knew that he could trust him,
Yeah.
and he knew where he would be way back when Joe Montana was quarterbacking,
Yeah.
and you knew that if they were both on their game, you have to
You're
be.
you're in trouble. You're in
Yes,
trouble. Yeah, if
exactly.
there was 2 minutes left on the clock and you were a touchdown, the Patriots were a touchdown down, something was going to happen.
Yeah, both the Patriots that now, well, when it was Brady and Gronkowski, and Montana and Rice, if they were down and there was 2 minutes left in the game, unless it was a blowout from the other team, you
Yeah.
cannot count them out. And the teamwork that's involved, and that's where
Yeah.
something that is so good. I mean, you're talking about significance, love, and connection. and and growth, the teamwork is, as an actor, when you're doing a play, you have to rely on other people. Yes, you have your director who has his vision and entrusts you as an actor to perform that vision. But then
Yeah.
in many cases, you have to rely on your fellow actors on the stage once that play opens and starts, because something may happen the director has no control over.
Right.
And that is an incredible feeling. If you are part of a team and you can work together like that, then the sky's the limit.
Yeah, and of course today for those are there's always these duos. So of course now it's Mahomes and Travis Kelsey. It's Patrick Mahomes and
Yes.
Kelvis Presley, and it's funny because if you look at all the which I think is pretty funny. There's people for years that always said that Brady's records are just going to be impossible to break. If you look at the yards and the touchdowns and the Super Bowls at the same age Brady was to Patrick Mahomes, he blows Brady away.
Mhm.
And so all he's got to do is stay healthy and those records are going to drop, so it's but it's pretty crazy. It's just pretty interesting right now that I think that for people, if we're talking yin and yang, what are you guys' thoughts? I just got like a cool download here. Um, how about yin and yang as far as listening to the noise and allowing distractions to happen in your life to fuck this, I need to get focused.
I mean, it's interesting because it can be different based off of what you're doing with your life, right? Like
True.
what's so interesting about being a storyteller is in a lot of the times you become an observer of the world. And when you're observing the world, that's sometimes like the best time to get ideas. Like a news article will come by and it will click, or whatever it may be, right? And it's funny, you guys talking about football and stuff. I'm like, this must be what it's like when me and Craig are talking about movies, because I'm like, I hear Montana and I'm like, I grew up in that state, you know what I mean? But I know it kind of, you know what I mean? But I wasn't
Right.
part of that world, nor have I ever been. But it is really, really cool to be part of a group of people that have a focused goal, or at least
Yeah.
share like some forms of focused vision. Because of course you'll hear about these amazing groups, and it's not just in sports, right? You'll hear about these amazing groups of entrepreneurs that just so happen to all be friends around this area of time. It's like, it's
Yeah.
interesting how Silicon Valley just happened to be the mecca of all that stuff happening, right? And it's
You could
really
know
interesting. You want to
while
talk
people
about
were going when they showed that in what was that called? Math. I thought it was called. It wasn't called Silicon Valley. Wasn't
yeah,
that the
Silicon Valley.
show? And so here they are. Pied Piper. They're going to go out, but it was so hilarious how they went from venture capitalist to venture capitalist to venture capitalist, and they were all like, high school reunion. It's like, hey Matt, what are you doing
Right.
here? Hey Craig, and it's like, what are you pitching now? What am I pitching? It's like everyone's like,
Still getting
gotta
drunk
go
every
through all this.
weekend? No, it's like, yeah. Because and you could say too, like a lot of those groups are it could be a boys group or whatever it may be, to a certain extent. But it's interesting because like you do have a commodity or a camaraderie in the sense of like what we're building and what we want to accomplish while we're here, right? Like if you have a bunch of archaeologists around, odds are that's all you guys talk about most of the time. That's what you think
Yeah,
about. You're excited about it.
race cars,
If it's
race cars.
architects,
Yeah.
right? Exactly. And that's the thing, is like finding that group that you're like excited to sit down with and talk about the shit that excites you in your life. Going back to trusting yourself and like knowing what you want to do, that group will facilitate the best ideas and push you in the best direction to accomplish those things, right?
Right.
And that's one of those things too, is it's like you can have a group that's excited about personal development, right? That they mostly just focus on that. You were talking
Yeah.
about earlier, the people that only focus on the positive, right? Sometimes it's not a bad thing to have a group of people that does that, just because it's so easy to think that way yourself. So
all the stories, all the success books that I've read, and people that I've heard, you really truly become a product of your environment.
You become who you hang around.
Yeah, and there's so many people on the planet that, again, will disagree with that. You know what I mean? But if you're hanging around a bunch of people that just think that they're getting the bad end of the stick, or they were dealt a bad hand, you know what I mean? And it's so amazing when you hear like a Morgan Freeman or a Denzel Washington, where all of a sudden they can ruffle a lot of frickin' feathers when they stand up and just say, listen, I grew up in a bad neighborhood, and every day I found a way to think on how the fuck am I going to get out of here? it's like, and that's why I think it's so funny not funny. The word is like inspiring, that you constantly just see male and female, different religions, different races of every country on the planet. What was that movie about the kid from India or whatever that sort of broke out?
Slumdog Millionaire?
Slumdog Millionaire, yeah. And I just love that. I'm addicted to that. I'm not addicted to noise and distractions. Even though there's some people on the planet right now that feel what's happened in the last week is really nothing. It's just another day. It's like, if someone takes a shot at someone, why do they care? Why, there's people trying to figure out how to get food in their stomach and how to get shelter that night. They don't even know what happened. They're so disconnected because of no internet or no TV. They're unaware of the things that distract and keep other people from living their best life.
Well, it's interesting because like when you say that too, Dad, I always think to myself, like the people, like we talk about realizing and being grateful for what you have, and you shared that a little bit earlier. I think that hits on it. If you have enough free time to think about this shit and complain about it, and you're not thinking about how to get food in your stomach, how to get a roof over your head, listen, dude, you have a lot of free time. Like that's the thing. A lot of free time to figure out what you want to do, what you want to be doing. And I'm not going to sit here and say I haven't fallen prey to that consistently. It's like every other week I have to pull myself back out of that noise, right? And sometimes I like the noise. Like sometimes I enjoy being part of that group of people, right? And engaging with other people. But I'm always trying my best to stay on the optimistic, positive side of it, at least with where we are now, because I'm fully aware that if I allow myself to be in a group of people that are constantly talking about how shit everything is, that then what ends up happening is I wake up every day thinking, the fuck is the point of doing any of this? You know what I mean? Yeah. Like it's all for nothing. It's it's an interesting thought because
it influences you. It really truly does. And just because like when we talked about the 6 human needs, here's another one that goes from selfishness to not selfishness. So the needs, quote unquote, of the spirit or the soul is growth, and the other one's contribution. Well, that's, think about it. When you're really focused on how you're going to develop yourself emotionally, intelligently, spiritually, when you're really focused on that stuff, you're probably not much of a contribution person at that moment in time. So all of a sudden it goes into yin and yang. Because for me, when I feel like I'm a personal development junkie, man. I want to get better. And here's a phrase that came to me today in my quiet time is when people say to me all the time, your mom, my wife, Terry, said this today. And she said, would you do me a favor and ask AI? And I was going like, you've never asked me to ask AI anything. and here's what she told me to ask. What is the best things to say to an individual to get them in your business? And so AI said this: when you're getting an individual interested in your business, the key is to be authentic, compelling, address their needs or interests. Here are the steps to follow. Identify their needs.
Ooh.
Okay. Yeah, this is like any marketing. Like if you read Ogilvy's book or any of the old fashioned marketing stuff, like pre social media. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? If you thought about how ads worked, right? Is it was always that was always the case, and social media has made this more so. Like, I could flip it now and say,
Yeah.
I can get you to want something before.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But before, advertising was like, listen, we need to figure out what the best place to advertise this milk is. Well, who wants milk the most? Who gets milk the most? Well, maybe we should advertise it with cereal. We should do sponsors together and do a commercial together or something along those lines. And I think, like, now, obviously, that none of that is the same, right? Like,
Right.
we collectively just are in more chaos, but then at the same time, it's like disconnecting from that chaos can be so good. That's why, like, getting back into reading or going
Yeah.
outside and touching grass, like, just
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
imagination, it's like, I love, again, where we hear it on the Statue of Liberty, along with other great words, is a pursuit of happiness. Um, I believe, in my opinion, is there's no way that you're going to find joy and excitement without pursuing something that is your imagination. And so, Jim Rohn said it best. Why do most people in the world are unhappy? Is they just don't know better. And listen, the way that I heard this, when I heard this, it downloaded for me. People don't know better is not in their power. They don't know a better way. They're ignorant. It's not that so when you tell people, well, they don't know better, when you say that about a child, you're doing it in a reference that they don't really know. So you give a toddler a glass and they grab a glass and they go, woo! And it's like the water comes out and everybody starts yelling, and what are you doing? They didn't know by doing this and being excited. They don't know they're pouring the water out or the milk out. They don't know. So when I thought of that majority of the people on the planet just don't know better. They're ignorant of any other way to I feel like they're significant.
Well,
I
it's like
believe that
it's
people,
like the saying, the malice thing. It's like, never attribute something to malice that could be attributed to, like exactly what you're talking
Like
about,
ignorance. Yeah.
ignorance. Exactly. Yeah.
well,
Don't
we've
think
heard
someone's
of a
being
lot.
malicious when they just don't know any better sometimes, right?
Yeah, we've heard a lot of criminal cases, or cases that didn't go criminal. And depending on the person that they're actually going after, if they don't want to go after them, they go, well, they really didn't have intent to do something wrong.
Mhm.
So if they like you and they believe that the world's going to come after them for going after the person, it's like, well, there really wasn't any intent. Well, wait a minute. You just have to turn it to one subject, and that's called killing another individual. That's the difference between murder and manslaughter. Because manslaughter is there was no intent, zero intent. I'm going out to kill someone today. No, you made a bad decision. You're texting someone on your frickin' phone and you went across the yellow line. You killed somebody. See, there's no intent. That's murder. No, murder is, I'm going to kill this dude. And the degrees go up based on meditating on it.
Premeditated. Yeah.
Premeditation on it. And then all of a sudden, when you find them, they got notes. They had all the stuff in their trunk of their car for a year.
Other trail on their cell phone and computers and all the Facebook entries or dark web posts.
Other people have heard you say that you're good. This guy's gonna get it. And
Yeah.
But I always think that's very interesting because if and I think it was I know it was Maya Angelou that said, when you know better, you can do better. But here's the problem. What if you know everything? So the craziness about the noise is that, like Matt said, and I know Craig would agree, and all the people that are watching, is tell me in the last week if you've seen something or heard something and you went, "Are you kidding me?" And then you told somebody else or you shared it with someone else.
Right.
And do they think that that's true or not? Because you're sharing it, and how you share it is the "Are you kidding me?" Because it's like, "Did you hear this? The rumor, what is it? The
Oh my
whisper down the
God.
lane. How many
Yeah.
ways, the sky is blue." Okay, by the time it goes down the lane, we find out that what is it? The ground is pink with green polka dots.
Matt, what's with your in your world
Mhm.
connected to AI and Reddit and those paying attention to that? What is the example that people use in this day and age when me and Craig talk about telephone? You know what I
Like
mean?
whisper down the lane
Yeah, when we
type
say
stuff.
whisper down the lane, what do people call it today? Just rumors?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's the same, like there's like human beings love rumors and drama. There's no way to get around
Oh,
it. It's a part of our social structure,
come on, there
and
wouldn't be
it
wouldn't
doesn't
be all
matter
the
how big or how
reality
small you
shows.
get. Yeah. The
Yeah.
the
Mhm.
there's always rumors. If you didn't have the internet and you didn't have the even telephones or say worldwide news or anything, then it'd be like, oh, what's Joe Schmo done in the town or whatever. The drama would be
Right.
about him, right? Now we've grown so big, but our minds have not, that we perceive, and when I even said earlier touch grass, we perceive the internet as the actual world, as like this reality world, when like you step outside and it's just not that way, right? So all of
Right.
this big news happens, and immediately in all of our minds we go riots, civil war, all the other things, like who knows what's going to happen right now, right? And you go through all these things in your mind, and then you get your dogs and you take your dogs on a walk and you go, it's the fucking internet. I just need to
Yeah.
take a break from the internet. That's
Or just the media
People
itself,
are
really.
walking, the birds are chirping, everything's good. And it's not to say that things aren't going crazy in different spaces, but the internet can be like such a noise machine that
Oh
you
my
really,
God.
it really becomes like the only way that you process information, and you start to slowly disassociate from the real world, right? Like where
Right.
the things that happen in real life are not really, they're not really connecting with you, but the things that are happening on the internet and in the world are connecting with you like immediately. You know what I mean? And if
Right.
that's where it's at, where it's like you're incredibly reactionary, and I've been this way, of course. You're reactionary to the internet because you live on it more than you live outside.
Yeah.
And so therefore you're basing like not just your reality, but your emotions off of what happens on it, instead of going outside and just going, how do I feel about
And
this? Or
what
like,
gives you that, Matt? The dopamine that is triggered in your brain that says, "I want more." I mean, how many and
that's
I'm
why you keep
guilty of
scrolling. That's why you
Yeah.
keep
exactly. I was
Yeah.
just
scrolling.
going
Yeah.
there. I
Yeah.
was just going there. The YouTube shorts, some of them are just incredible, and some of them I want to see more of the same types of shorts because they're cool, because they give you a nice warm feeling
Yeah.
inside.
And what do people do? They like up on them, they heart them, and then they also comment on them, and then they share. And the computer goes, ah, this is what you like.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
that's the thing, is like it feeds off itself, right? And this is how AI works too. But
Totally.
it's like,
Totally.
okay, if I'm getting a response mentally, and then we've trained a machine to get a response mechanically, then you kind of have this circle of
Jeez.
satisfaction, so to speak. And that's where like the dead internet stuff, or people living in their own echo chambers in the future, is going to become even more so the case, because as that starts to happen, we've already become so socially unaware that we can hold more than one opinion. And by the way, that's actively anti-intelligence. By the way, if you can't hold more than one opinion on a subject or think of multiple different opinions, that's a lack of intelligence.
Yep.
And what's interesting is like, okay, I'm gonna say something here, but it's like, to a certain extent, I can be a bully with these things, but I think that the fact that this bullying shit doesn't exist anymore is actually actively a bad thing. Like I think if someone's making decisions that are unintelligent, and people are making that constant choice, going, oh, well, they deserve an opinion too, is kind of like, okay, but now we have no basis now. Now you're saying
Right.
you're holding
Yeah.
someone that has no documentation up against someone that has all the documentation and saying that they're equal. That's just stupidity. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, that's all I'm going to say about it. But that's the way that it is.
No,
Is like,
you're
Mhm.
one of the things that
you should be able to talk about it and hold
yeah.
multiple opinions at once, is what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah.
If you're holding
Well,
one opinion and
not
hating
only
everyone that
have
holds the opposite, that's non-intelligence.
And
right.
especially
So
when you see that opposite opinion or that opposite item is what is working in mass, and you still believe what you want to believe because that's the
Yeah.
way you were raised. It's in a sense, and for me, sometimes I just think it's mind blowing. But unfortunately, this is the way that we are when we talk about the noise, and it keeps getting louder and louder because they keep being fed this information. And this is where the loss of fact or truth, or how is that working, or is that true? The loss of that has
Yeah.
created this loud noise now that we are having to deal with.
And I tell people, the last thing I want to do is come on here and talk about that we're all aware. I see here right away, you got to go, is this true? But I seen someone share, and I actually sometimes now, not sometimes, if I see something that even makes me like, wow, that I really, it's like I'll at least go back to whoever, they shared a post or they did a screenshot of a post. I've a number of times I've gone to the person's page and can't find that post anywhere. Well, I guess they could have deleted it. That's why the person did a screenshot. But it's like, oh, so wait a minute. Someone shared something and then everybody grabbed it and went all over. And then guess what? The person changed their mind because they got more information and now they feel like that post is wrong. So they deleted it. Too fucking late. Someone already screenshot it and is beating
right.
your ass for the rest of your life. And I'm going,
Well,
like,
that's the thing too, is you have to
that ought to
have,
give that ought
yeah,
to give people, I'm just saying that should give you a pause. You know what I mean? It's like
Mhm.
just to say, wow. And so here was the thing that I seen that Elon Musk did share, and to show you how noisy it is. 2 days in a row, X, known as Twitter, broke records for how much bandwidth was happening on Twitter. So we know the events, we don't need to talk about them, but to think that raised up enough where it was funny. I shouldn't use the word funny all the time, but I do. But I find it really fascinating that even the biggest opinionators, the people that usually cause the most rhetoric, are going, okay, that's fucking enough. Where people were just going, you can't just allow your mouth to continue to say stuff that's just really, really not good.
yeah,
And
you see people too,
everyone's
like, jump on the first
ah,
conspiracy theory, the first everything, because like it fits their agenda or what they want. And
yeah,
it's
Mhm.
like I said, if that's what you're doing, like, truthfully, just take a step back, go on a walk, go outside and think to yourself, how does this benefit me and how does it benefit the people around me in my life to be this way? Because like a lot of that anger and frustration comes from, and I'm seeing a lot of people even on the left and stuff as well go, well, the rhetoric that's been happening for so long by the other side is violent. So of course there's going to be violence at some point. And it's like, yeah, but could we just have a talk about nonviolence? Like, why I'm confused why the response is back and forth and how you don't think that ends up in a bad
yeah,
situation for all of us, right? Take a
Which is
couple of
exactly
steps
what just
back.
happened recently with the latest news and the assassination attempt. I mean,
yeah.
i- i- can we say that it's possible that the stoking of the flames, it began a long time ago,
Well,
and
it really truly has been going on forever. I
right,
seen a I seen a post that was funny where someone changes the information, right? And it,
just a
it
little.
showed and it showed Caesar and when he was killed and stabbed to death. And it showed the picture of a bunch of people, killing Caesar. And the thing that said underneath it is there was a bunch of people unhappy with Caesar. It's like, whoa, it's like,
Which
because one side tries to make it less than
mean,
it was, while the
Don't-
other side is trying to make it more than
More
it
than it
was. And
is,
it's
yeah.
like, and the millions of different, because I know now that people trying to get significance go, because I've learned this in trying to help people be better people. It can't, people just in human nature just are not interested in doing things exactly. So it's funny, Craig brought that up. We always seem to do these circles where, Thomas Edison said, it was 10,000 ways that I figured out that it didn't work, but every one of them got me to a better place. Well, what people do is if they see something and hear any information, their deal is to put that little twist on it, or maybe I could do this, or maybe I could add this, because if I'm just hearing the exact information, then it's not mine. See, I gotta add something to it. I gotta, stretch the truth a little bit. I gotta be more shocking than somebody else. And I think that what we could really do is so we all admit that as people are watching this, that we all get caught up in the noise. And then we realize that it's a distraction. And then the distraction sometimes lasts longer than we need it to. So, it's the size of the person. It's the size of the person based on their reaction to something, not the actual thing. And it's like you always can tell the size of the person based on the thing that flips them out. And younger, I always talk about younger, super opinionated. If you didn't believe that I knew everything, just ask me because I'll tell you. And there was one way, and that's my way. And so, you come from all this stuff, and we always joke with parents, it's like, what age did your child wake up and come out of their bedroom, and you absolutely fucking know nothing. It's like they were just anointed in their bedroom by some, power that they believe in, that today is the day I know everything. And it's like no one else on the planet knows anything. And it's like we shut ourselves off and become very argumentative. And, I can remember, we can go way back. A lot of people don't know where Hannity got his success from. And there used to be a lot of shows when Craig and I were younger, and it was point versus point.
Like counterpoint.
Yeah. So the things that got
that exists now, but you can't understand anybody because they're screaming over each other. So
it's
true. Those still exist, but people.
Yeah, the other one was left, right, center, and
it's 100% one way or the other. So it's like if you are pro this, then you're pro genocide or whatever.
Yeah. People don't know the counterpoints to Hannity back when he first started, and that was Combs. You know what I mean? So it was called Hannity and Combs, or Combs and Hannity. But you always had his friend that had glasses on that was going, dude, you're a nutcase. It's nothing like
Who would have thought? All you had to do is get rid of the guy that sat next to you that said, actually, you're a nutcase. And then things changed, right? All of a sudden the ratings start going up.
Yep. And so, why don't we finish off this podcast today, since we're all admitting that we sometimes get caught up in this stuff because we're human. Matt already brought up a number of times about, hey, just walk away, go outside,
right.
Do something.
Take your dogs on a walk.
I think it'd be really cool for both of us to say things that, because I know, without getting into what I do, I'm just very aware on how I feel. And I am very, very good and will continue to get better. When I know better, I'll do better. But I know exactly the things that can change my emotions and how they can change fast. So you got to be conscious of being in the wrong frequency, energy. The best way I've heard this is Esther Hicks. She was talk about, and again, Matt probably remembers this, but maybe he doesn't. But there used to be a day when there wasn't any FM radio. So AM radio was something that really truly was within a 20-mile radius. And so if you're
Local.
tuned into your favorite AM radio and you decide to go on a road trip, you would lose that channel very, very quick. And then, of course, it went to FM channel, right? And all of us have been very, very funny where we're, how many movies or scenes in movies or even in books where we've seen this thing where you got two people in the car. And last one I just seen was, Eddie, the new AF, Eddie Axel Foley, Beverly Hills Cop. And it shows him and another person that's sitting in the car, and that one person's listening to something and his daughter, and then he goes back to the other thing, and it's like, that's garbage music. You know what I mean? No, I like this. And they're just going back and forth between the channels. And I think that's a perfect analogy of what we're talking about, because if we're all sitting in the same van and we're trying to find out what radio station or what frequency made you feel better.
Mm-hmm.
Because here's the scenes we always see is a person that might be a geek that's socially unacceptable. They're socially awkward. And then all of a sudden they're like, this is my jam. You know what I mean? I'm like,
Right.
what the hell is, it's like, hey, to be aware enough that you're isolated, that you're not talking to people, that you're following the noise, that you're constantly, you don't feel good. You don't really feel good because you're tuned into the wrong channel, and you'd rather tell everybody how fucking bad this music is. It's like, this is not music. I hate this song. I hate this singer. I hate the background singers. I hate auto-tune. I don't, it's like turn the fucking channel. Turn the fucking channel to make you go, hey, listen to this.
Robert, Howard Stern has said that, and so has as a radio personality, and so has even Tom Likas, for those people who remember him. It's like, if you don't like me, how many other radio stations are there to listen to? How many podcasts are there to listen to? How many different things can you do to get away from the sound of my voice? And and people, they don't do that. And it's like,
no,
turn it off.
They don't
change the
disconnect.
channel.
They go on the internet and then complain about something that they chose to watch and commit
bizarre.
to, which is interesting. But that goes back to the individuality of, like, my opinion. Like, people consume things now to have an opinion on them instead of consuming them to have an experience with them, which is like such a different way of doing shit. People nowadays do shit not to experience it, but to have an opinion on it. So it's like, I need to watch this movie so I can have an opinion on it, so then I could say how I feel about it. Or I need to play this game so I can have an opinion about it. So when you go about life looking to have an opinion on things instead of experiencing them, aren't you going into them kind of with the wrong mindset then? Because you're actively looking for the things to have an opinion on instead of actively looking for the things to have an experience with, right? And so, like, you'll have certain music where people will go, I can't listen to this EDM music. Are you kidding me? It's meant to be experienced, not meant to have an opinion on it. Meant to be experienced. I hate country music. Not meant to have an opinion on country music. Meant to experience country music. And I'm not a normal listener of country music.
Beyonce's doing a country music. Now I might be no, I'm different.
Exactly. Well, I mean, it's like, okay, so there's been situations in my life. Like, am I going to sit at my computer while I'm working and listen to country music? No. Are there times where I was maybe going on a road trip, or me and my wife did a horseback riding thing for our anniversary. There are certain times where like you feel more country and the country music hits a different way. Maybe
Yeah.
you're in a barnyard dance or something like that, right?
Square dance.
Right, square dance space that you're in. And that's the thing, is like if you start looking in your life, and I'm trying to do this better myself, looking for things to experience and to share with other people
Good.
instead of looking for things to have an opinion on to share with other people, then you'll realize how much more excited people are to share things with you, right? Because if they go, fuck, if I watch this movie with Matt, he's just going to tell me his opinion on it, instead of get at the end of the movie and go, I can't believe we got to experience that shit together. You know what I mean? How amazing was it to see IMAX Dune in 70 millimeter and experience that together, instead of, which is what me and you did, Dad. But like,
Yeah.
That to have that experience together, instead of leave it and go, well, what was your opinion on, that one CGI scene in the movie really seemed like it wasn't as realistic as the other CGI
Didn't really
scenes in the
click with
movie.
me.
Didn't really click with me. It actually brought me out of the film quite a bit. I actually wasn't able to experience any of the plot after that scene. It really messed with me quite a bit. And it's like, you'll see people do this to themselves, and it's like actively, like they went into the new Eminem album actively waiting to hear him say something that was offensive to them so they could have an opinion on it and review it lower, instead of like listen to it and experience it from front to back and say, hey, did this art vibe with me? No. Okay, move on. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I when I launched my book, 12/12/12, December 12th of 2012. 5-star, 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 5-star. Now listen, these are people that know, like, and trust me. They love me. They've been
They
following
couldn't wait
me.
for the book to come out. They had it pre-ordered.
It's like reading a book with a little bit of bias. Do you know what I mean? I like this guy. He's done a lot of stuff for me. And I remember going and looking at the reviews, and it was like not even a week, and someone gave it like a 3-star. And I looked at it, and it was someone I knew. And I called him up. Matt, we meet these very unique people. Let's just be nice. And so I called up Paul Maneri, and I haven't talked to him in forever on purpose. And I said, you didn't like the book? And he goes, no, if I gave it a 5-star rating, then people wouldn't look at my review of the book. So I purposely made it a 3-star because I knew people would look at mine before all the 5s. And I was going, that's one of those phrases where, hey, when people tell you who they are, fucking listen.
That's the case. But it's like, and you see people like, instead of saying their opinion now, they have to shout it, or it has to be way more crazy or elaborate of an opinion than it did before, because now it's like that's the only thing that people actually listen to, like, or follow for whatever reason. It's like the more yelling or the more whatever it may be. But like I don't know. I just think when you think of life as a whole and you take yourself out of like what this all is, and that you're sharing it, and you do make it individual based,
personal,
you got to ask
personal. Good point.
You got to ask yourself like what shit's serving you and what's not. And when the shit over this week happened, I let it affect me for the first couple of days, and then my brain kicked back in, and I've still been slipping in and out of this, but my brain kicked back in and went, no, this doesn't serve you to go down these roads anymore. Go back to creativity. Go back to experience. Go back to all this.
I'm sort of scared to say this, but it's really, truly honest. It's like, God, I don't fucking care. I do have the ability in my mind to go, a guy taught me a long, long time ago. It's like I create my own reality. I create my own little world and the way that I feel about it. And so it didn't take long for me to have, Kyle came out of his bedroom and said, did you hear? And I have to admit that I was shocked. I thought, nah. And I turned on the TV and there it was. And honestly, I'm not saying I'm any better than anybody else. I'm just saying that, I know better. I know better. And so I just ask questions to myself. It's like, how is this relevant to what I can do for the rest of my life? And of course, a mentor taught me years ago that it doesn't make a difference who's running the country. I'm able to create my own economy. I'm able to create my own world. And there's a lot of people that get pissed off when I want to put on my oxygen mask first. People get really, really mad at me. And I've had people call me out on it. And it's like, you need to care about this shit. And I'm going, no, I don't.
No, yeah.
Or at
That's
least
the
not
funny
at the
thing.
moment until I've thought about it and
I don't have
taken
to
in
care
the
about it at
facts
all.
of
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Right.
And that's that's bringing that noise level down, at least individually.
Yeah, the
Because-
forcefulness by other people to tell you that you have to care about one thing or the other with your life that you're given. If you don't, like, how far are you going to let that go? You know what
Yeah.
I mean? How are you going to let that go to where you live, to what you do for a living, to how you interact with people? Like, you really have to, like, stop shit like that as it starts instead of let it consume who you are. If someone goes, "Hey, have you heard of this?" And it's like, well, no, I haven't. It's like, well, don't you care? Don't you have an opinion on it? Don't know anything about it. I don't. You know,
Yeah.
move on.
I remember the first time that I heard Abraham Hicks say this. And when she said it, it just made my heart swell. Really, honestly, made my heart swell. And it's like, imagine me doing this to Matthew. Matthew, I need you to be and act and say and feel a certain way so I can feel better. Do you realize how fucking selfish that is? Man, I need you to give a shit about this subject that I feel about.
There's respect for people, but you also have to, yeah.
You asking people to care or think the way you think or be the way you are is you being fucking selfish.
Yeah,
I had
listen.
that in a business meeting at one of the company that you and I used to be in, Robert, where I was the lone person because I knew better, and everybody else around the table, they voted they voted opposite me, but I had all the facts, never mind the fact that I presented them, and they all looked at me. It's like, why are you saying this? Why are you doing this? Because I know, and I've researched it, and they were pounding me on that.
Yeah.
And it was just like, okay, fine. You know what? So the vote is 6-1 in the room. I'm going to still keep my no vote, but if that's the way you guys vote, then go for it. They were very incensed at the fact that I wasn't going to go along with what they believed. And
well, if you've seen 12 Angry Men, it was incredible movie. Similar to what you're talking about. I was going to say, if you've seen 12 Angry Men, incredible film.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Incredible film about 12 guys in a jury, and they immediately go in after this. They've been given all the evidence in this murder case, and 99% of them are like, he's guilty. Let's get the fuck out of here, guys. Like, let's all agree and get out of here. Except for one guy that's going, the evidence made no sense. And you weren't paying attention, and you don't care that you're throwing this kid's life away just so you can get to lunch. So no, I'm not going to agree. And the whole movie is about that. It never leaves that room, really. It's just him communicating with the other people in the room and trying to change their minds about what they actually have at stake, because it means nothing to them, right? But for him,
they just want to get it done and over with.
Is over with if you all collectively agree that he's guilty, right?
And that's what's happening today when you think about it. It's again, going back to the facts. What are the facts? What is true?
And people don't want to realize too. Sorry to interrupt you, Craig.
When you brought that up, Craig, here's something that if I've ever had pushback more in my life about one thing that I bring up to people is, and me and Matt have had some of our most emotional disagreements and arguments about me pushing him that he didn't fucking know the facts. thought he knew the facts. And I remember there was one time where Matt was like, he called me out on it on an emotional level. And he goes, so basically what you're doing is you're challenging me on the facts, but basically what you're doing is just challenging me. He
It's
goes,
like being a contrarian.
he
Yeah.
goes, we're, and I remember he got me to just go, wow. And he goes, so you're not aware of the thing at all. I have done some research on it, but you just want to combat me to figure out whether or not I know the facts when you know nothing about the subject. What the fuck is that doing? Why?
We've all done that though.
Yeah. And it's like, and then of course the other funny one is when you know that you're wrong, then you just basically tell the person that you misunderstood them.
Well, I've made this joke in the past, but we all have had that classic moment. Yeah, we've all had that classic moment where you're in a debate with somebody or you're arguing with somebody. Maybe it's not even that serious. You're at the dinner table and it's like, nah, look it up. And then they like grab their phone and you see them look it up. And then they're like, well, they just changed the subject to something else. They're like,
Yeah.
it's like, shit. Okay. I know that I was right then.
Yeah. So significance again comes with you standing your ground and wanting to be a right fighter. And instead of being happy, I had such great mentors. One of the first times that I ever heard this, and I haven't said this in years. And he said, this is what he said. You know why a majority of the people are struggling and no area of their life whatsoever is what they dreamt it to be or imagined it to be. And he says, because people would rather be right than rich. People would rather be right than happy. People would rather be right than fulfilled.
Yeah, temporary relief. Yeah.
And so it's that moment in time that you'd rather be right than be open-minded and hearing a different side. But the one thing I was going to say about Craig's statement is, and of course, this is my thoughts, Craig, not yours. When someone starts really drilling in and going, but people don't know the facts, that's usually a person that believes that they know the facts.
Right.
It's just what we do. The reason that things are fucked up is people don't know the truth and know the facts. And it's like, you don't either.
Well, I think it's you learn too, like how to communicate with other human beings. It's like one of those things that, like, as I've worked on myself, Dad, you can attest to this. I'm very like bullheaded in my own ideas. Most of the time I'll say like, this is the right way. This is the way it's supposed to be done. My way or the highway type stuff, or at least I used to be. Now I try to be a lot more of a collaborator and like understand other people's opinions and thoughts, because like one mind is worthless in comparison to many. So it's like, instead of throwing everybody's ideas out, mine their intelligence and their own wisdom for the best ideas that you can get and utilize those. If you look at the best people on the planet that have done great things, they were good at that skill. Like, they're very good at that skill, finding people and mining their intelligence for what they're great at and utilizing them for what they're great at. And in a lot of ways, society now tells you that you have to be all of these things, right? You can't just be a genius inventor. You also have to be a genius entrepreneur. You also have to be a genius speaker. You also have to be a genius social media influencer. You have to be all of these things at once to be successful. It's not true. You just have to find the other people that are good at those things. So
I recently seen, and again, it's funny, and we live in a day and age where the noise is so loud that it's very difficult to even make your point or your opinion about something by using a name of somebody. Because if you use the name of somebody, then they just know all the shit that they did wrong. They know nothing about the positive shit that they did.
It's like, you're a Beatles fan. Don't you know about John Lennon?
Yeah. And it's crazy how people want to immediately do that. And so, one of the things recently, I just seen an interview with Jeff Bezos, and they said, what is one of the things that you think that other people don't do that made you successful with Amazon? And he says, if you look at my inner core of people, and he says, I'm talking about 100, they are the most loyal people in the world. The people that are really around me. And he goes, and this is why. Everybody knew at any time that you could bring something to my attention and tell me what your solution was. And he said, the closest people that are to me that help me build Amazon that don't get the credit that I get, he said, these are people that came to me with such a passion and an idea that they thought was the way to do it. And I 1000% as a CEO of the company, 100% disagreed. I was able to tell them. And when I told them that I disagreed with them, then I would share with them that if they knew the way to solve this problem or to take it to the next level, that I gave them my blessing. And every one of them knew it wasn't going to be, I told you so. It wasn't going to be, we wasted a lot of time and money on that, because the way that you believe in yourself and be confident is going all in on an imagination or idea that you have and finding out that it didn't work. And he says, here's the crazy thing about it. All the major decisions that made Amazon what it was, he said, was about 50-50. The things that I adamantly disagreed with, and I wouldn't go on why I believed that it was wrong. And this individual fucking pulled it off. It was a benefit for the company. I changed the way I thought about it. And he goes, if you don't have a core group of people around you that feels that don't feel this way, you know, I'm not going to bring up an idea to that asshole, because he's just going to firebomb it and tell me to do my job and not come up with any idea. He said, you can't build something enormous as Amazon with people that don't think that they can challenge you.
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me of that. I was looking it up, that Harry S. Truman quote, where it's like, it's amazing what you can accomplish if you do not care who gets the credit for it. And that's the truth.
Truman gets
Truman.
credit for that?
Yeah. So Truman said, basically that was his saying. So
because the reason I brought that up is here. What a great time to come up with this, right? Is Winston Churchill, I told, got credit for that quote actually when they're in a room when they're deciding what they were going to do with the World War. So there was a quote that someone said that Winston Churchill in the story went into the room and he goes, there's two groups of people in this room that I would like to eliminate, and you get to make the decision. He goes, here's the two groups of people. One group of people, the second you walk out of here, whatever decision we make, you're the person said, well, we made that decision, but I didn't like it. I didn't agree with it, but this is the way we go. And the other person that can't wait to be the first person to come out, run out of the room and say, guess who came up with this idea? Me.
Right.
He says, so we're sitting around a bunch of intelligent people that have an incredible experience. And maybe he just said it because he heard it from Truman, you know, but that's what he said. If we walk out of this room all agreeing of whatever we're going to do, we're going to do, and no one wants to take credit on it, and no one wants to say that they were really not agreeing with it, but, you know, and we see this with politicians all the time, right? It's like you're sitting in a room and it's, are we going to take this guy out or not? Are we going to do this or not? And everyone agrees and it happens or it doesn't happen. And then you got the politician a couple of years later that went, well, I was the one in there that dissented. I just need you to know I went on the record, but they sure want to take credit if it turned out right.
Well, yeah. I mean, but that's the thing now. And I think I've said this on another broadcast at some point, but it's like, you can't be a politician in the United States anymore and have like a middle ground or be honest with people, because you'll lose.
Yeah,
The
you'll lose.
truth is
Oh
if
yeah.
you don't come out and say things are going to get a lot better if you vote for me, you can't come out and say, listen, it's going to be a little rough for a couple of years in the beginning because we need to get everything together, but then eventually life in the future will be a lot better for you and your children. They'd be like, nope, I'm voting for the guy that tells me it's going to get better right when he gets in
There's that
office.
instant results versus
You know what
long-term
I mean?
Yeah,
thinking, and that we had on the last podcast,
Right.
because people, they want it now.
right.
No, or the phrase I always used to say, and I stopped. Lord grant me the patience, but I want it now.
That's good.
That's where we are right now with so many things, and not looking forward, not looking in the best interest of everybody, and people saying my way, my way, my way. Well, yeah, but which way are we going to go? Why can't we go all there together? Am I being
Yeah,
altruistic in saying that? Yes, especially given today's events, but that's the best way to go, and we just have
right.
to understand and give grace to the people that we think have supposedly gone through all of this, looked at it, examined it, and said, you know what? This is a better way for us to go. And yes, it may hurt for a little while.
Yeah, you're right. There's no way you can say that anymore. So, Matt, did you give people a couple of things that they can do
Well, I was
to
going to say
walk?
with you guys, like if how do you grow more patience like in those situations because
Oh,
of course, that was the first thing that I thought. Like one of the recommendations when we were kicking around ideas of what to talk about on this, and one thing that came to me while I was walking my corgis was just the ability to start over and like not have a sunken cost fallacy in something and go, I've done this so much and it's always been this way, so let's keep it this way. It's like that quote you always say, Dad.
oh,
It's dangerous, right? And that's the thing, because I think in my life and in a lot of people's lives there's this fear of starting over in something new, or this fear of starting over even in something you already like doing, like getting back to the fundamentals and the foundations of what made you really like it and enjoy it in the first place. Because we all get managerial, the larger things get. So it's like, okay, it's very easy to tell a bunch of people or AI to create a bunch of stuff, but man, it feels so great to create something yourself. And it's like,
Yeah,
don't forget that foundation of that, because it's just so easy to skip over it now, right? Or in your situation, Dad, right? Like you've seen people go to that managerial spot in business, and it's like the first nail in the coffin basically,
yeah,
because like
it-
you're immediately going into a place of you're so disconnected from the fundamentals that you can't teach the fundamentals because you don't do them,
right.
right? And I've experienced that myself, where it's like, okay, you're training somebody on something, but you don't actually do that thing all the time anymore. It's something you used to do, but not
mhm.
anymore. So,
Right.
And you see people that do that. And Robert, I'm going to say you have done that, where you have you've gotten to that point, and then you say, okay, let's go to this direction. Let's
Yeah,
go this direction. Let's go this direction. And then what happens? You go in that direction, there's a little bit of success, and then all of a sudden it just doesn't work. So
yeah.
what
It's
do? You go back to the basics, and
it's
you
not, yeah.
master the mundane. It,
boom.
it's like it's like if you always go back to, you know, it's like I really have a difficulty with even the concept of values, and people will probably freak out when I say this. Your beliefs, your morals. It's like, God, this world is just so vast. It's so big. There's 8 billion people. And it's like, I find it more lack of intelligence and being a master arrogant person that's um the more clueless I find people, in my opinion now, is how closed-minded people are. You know what I mean? It's like this way or no way. And they get all their validation. And I always tell people, if you're following anyone or you're involved in any group whatsoever, that you have a feeling that you're constantly upset and pissed off at another group of people, I'm just asking you, I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying you got to really evaluate what noise you're listening to if it's not making you feel love. If you really could give a shit about another human being or animals or the earth itself, if you just don't give a shit about other people because they're different than you got to check yourself. That's a checkup from the neck up. And I'm human. I'm freaking human. And sometimes I can see people with different beliefs or different perspectives or different values or morals, and I'm very ignorant of the environment that they grew up in. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean that it's right or wrong, but you know, I'll never forget Matt, your mother, my wife Carrie. We watched one of her favorite shows. It's the best of show, and it's just the
Great
funniest
film.
funny movie.
Yeah.
And there was one thing in there that tweaked your mom and it immediately made her mad. And all the guy said, being the funny guy that's the announcer, the guy that's sharing everything, is going, wow, that's a beautiful dog. And to think that there's countries where that's a delicacy. You know what I mean? And mom's like, what? And of course, the guy that's always trying to correct him next to him is going like, wow, that's a little out there. And he goes, hey, it is what it is. But anyway, what about this Labrador? You know, it's these little things that people say that are true. To think that there's actually some countries out there that raise dogs the way we raise cows. It's just you know, and who's the person that gets to step up? You know, we used to have a friend that used to visit us in Georgia, and when Matt and Kyle were small, and he was Indian, and he came over and he always spent time with Matt and Kyle, and he's like, "Listen, I can't eat meat. I can't eat cows." And we ask him, "Well, no, we don't know. We're ignorant, right? Why can't you eat cows?" Well, they're gods in our country. Bam. I've been to Thailand and I've been to China and I've been to the Philippines. And in Thailand, elephants are like our bald eagle. You get seen mistreating an elephant and you're shot in the frickin' street. So elephants are just everywhere doing whatever elephants do. And it's like I'm like, if you grew up from the time that you were a little kid saying that this is the most majestic animal on the planet, because in the United States you get shot hurting or killing a bald eagle, you're going to prison. To think that that's that federal of a law, that it's like, man, yeah, that was too far. But if I shot a duck, am I okay? Or a pheasant? Yeah, just not a bald
Well,
eagle.
it's of course it's like it's just common like human being like adding significance to things based off of
Sure.
you know generational indoctrination type shit, right? It's like,
Yeah.
okay, so this is this way, this is that way. Doesn't mean that it's not significant, but like it's interesting because you see a lot of people going, oh, that's dumb, or I can't understand that, or whatever. I would venture to say that you probably have shit in your own life that's that way. But that's the thing, is like a lot of people tend to just like, I don't know, like do you have a certain way that you put your socks on that makes you feel better than another way that
Oh my
you put your socks on?
Matt,
Craig,
I
why are
brought
you
this up.
moving?
No, because
Matt,
there's a scene in All in the Family
Oh,
where
really?
Archie and Meathead literally do that. They
Mhm.
talk about the you know, you put the socks on first and then the shoes. No, I put the sock, then the shoe on whatever side I'm doing, and then the sock and then the shoe. And there's a whole the
That
beauty of
sounds
it
like
is
they
that
madness
didn't.
to me.
Wasn't
yeah,
wasn't
but that
Seinfeld?
was the whole point, is that they were making a big issue out of nothing.
Yeah, the
Right.
Seinfeld, Seinfeld and Curb Your Enthusiasm. I mean, David Allen, Larry David and Jerry Seinfeld each are worth $1 billion because of that concept. Is to think that they can come up with something where other people are just going like, that's over the line. I mean, the one that I laugh with Larry David is he showed up at a party with his girlfriend and she was in a wheelchair. And they're going, what's going on? He goes, I don't have to worry about anybody hitting on her. It's like
Yeah, the old, it's funny too because like
That's
I've even
so
seen these videos too, you guys, where it's like not, people change based off of the generation that came before them, right? But it's like it's so interesting to see young people listen to music that I grew up with, whether it's certain emo styles of music or whether it's like punk rock or anything like that, or old hip hop music is even more so the case, right? They
right.
listen to it and they go, I don't understand how someone can say these things. And actually, this song was a #1 hit song and they're saying these things. You know what I mean? And so it's interesting because it's just the time, the place, right? You grow up in a different time and place.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a generation detached from that and people don't speak that way anymore, there's like, I don't know, when I was a millennial and you have baby boomers say certain things or whatever, I just go, they're baby boomers. Like they didn't know any better. You know what I mean? Not to say that they can't do better, but they didn't know any better.
Right back to that statement.
Right.
Don't know better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You shouldn't live
right.
you shouldn't live your entire life. I know one thing though. Whether you know better or not know better. I know that a majority of people would not want to answer this following question. What you just shared with me, the information that you just shared with me, how does that information make you feel? Because here's when you know that you're not in control of your emotions. Is that if I know that I know that I know something with everything in my fiber, and we know the radicals that would be able to fight and kill for that belief and that thought, if my emotions change because I can't get Craig and Matt or the viewer to change their mind how they feel about what I feel about, see, being out of control is exactly the way it sounds. When someone can push your buttons and based on how I feel today is whether or not I can get Matt to feel the same way as I feel about whatever bullshit I'm trying to say to him.
Well, that's like the mirroring thing, right? You really, you're more looking in them to validate how you feel than you are actually capable of validating it yourself. You're not capable of regulating yourself in a way to go, oh, this was enough for me. You need to also have the people that are around you that are significant. And this is just normal. Like I do this too. Everybody does this. You want the people that surround you to say, Matt's doing a great job. He's on the right path. That's a great idea. We all want that. But the thing that's funny about it all is that you don't actually need any of that shit. If you had people that surrounded you that said, your ideas are stupid, you're not going anywhere, it's never going to work out, are you crazy, do this or that, we have more than enough evidence to say that there's people that have heard that and worse and gotten on the other side of it and done it anyway. So it just goes to show that you can have all of those things or you can have none of those things, and it doesn't change how successful you are at what you want to do. It's more just how confident you feel in doing it.
We also hear the stories like Mike Tyson and athletes and other CEOs and stuff that actually create a culture around themselves where everyone's a yes person.
Mm.
See? And so, the #1 question that Mike Tyson gets asked is because Don King was his manager. Is that kid, well, now grown man, netted netted $300 million because Don King was his business manager and he would take the taxes out before he gave the money to Mike Tyson because he just knew that the kid wouldn't pay his taxes. He said, no athlete pays their taxes. And so how do you spend $300 million? 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 How do you spend $3
Well, when you can make up any prices you want after a certain extent on certain things at quickly.
Yeah.
You know what I
And
mean? It's
so,
like,
and he always brings up the same thing. He said, "Man," he says, "do you realize how many friends and people you can get to hang around you when you're buying everything and paying them?"
Hmm.
He said, "You can get a pretty good crowd around you."
well,
And
and
when
it's
the
in their
money
best
ran out,
interest. Yeah, it's
you
in
know, the
their best
money ran
interest to
out
always
and
say you're
things.
right.
Yeah, it's like that. That is a not the only definition of entourage, but
Oh, but it is a major one, especially when you see, okay, like you were just saying, Robert, he's earning all this money. He's got all these people around, but what happens when the money goes away?
yeah.
So do all the people. So does all the influence. So does everything. And yeah,
Crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy. So I just tell people, I just want, please, you guys have a last word is that, again, it's sort of funny. We get to throw it back to where it was, which is, you got to trust yourself, be constantly checking in. How many people I run into on a daily basis that are not only unhappy, which happy is your own definition as well, but if you're not in a state of joy and excitement and enthusiasm in your pursuit of happiness, knowing that you're just going to consistently get these, then you're really tossed to and fro. It's a song came to my head. It's like it's like anybody can be tossed to and fro. I was thinking of a Garth Brooks song,
Hmm.
and it's just like, when you don't stand for anything, you'll fall for anything. And if you really got somebody and not only ask them what they want, where are they going to be in the next 2 years, 3 years, but this constant place of being in a state where you hear a new opinion and you change, and you hear a new opinion and you change, and you hear a new opinion and you change, and it's like it's just like there's no direction. You're just being tossed to and fro instead of got a serious path, set your sails. The wind's the same for us all. And, there's a bunch of us are all sailboats on this incredible ocean, but every one of us should have a destination that makes us fulfilled and happy. And it's like, you got to set your compass and set your GPS to where you're fucking going in your life and stop being distracted with all the noise and the shit that's happening. It's like crazy. I love this saying. Me and Craig have heard this saying many times. We worked for a guy that would constantly say this statement, but it's like me. I want to, again, the two ways that we die is the one that you take your last breath, and then the next one is the last time that someone says your name. And my whole thought every day is how I can help and impact people in a positive manner. So if they know better, they can do better. The last thing that I want you to hear in this whole podcast is, shit, I do that. Oh my God, I can't believe I ruined my feelings and I don't feel good because I get caught up on all this noise and all these opinions. That makes you fucking human. That makes you human. What makes you better is how fast you realize that you're not feeling good because you're caught up in the noise of other people's dreams, man. There it comes back, Matt. It's like,
Hmm.
just check yourself all the time. Am I caught up in somebody else's fucking imagination, or am I caught up in my own?
Yeah, you gotta realize, just like I was saying, it's okay if you get caught up in it from time to time because that's you're human, like you said, Dad. But
Right.
it really does coming down to awareness of yourself and like how you act and how you work. Like if you can do your best to separate your brain and your mind and think of your brain as a machine, like a computer that's trained with all of this code that you feed it with your mind. And so the more that you can have control over your mind, the better that the brain will work. So it's like, okay, if I'm constantly feeding it the brain negative shit, it's going to crave negative shit.
Yep.
Your mind can be aware that that's happening to the machine, but the mind's the only thing that's going to fix it, right? Like the brain, the machine is not going to automatically turn a different direction and go that way. You have to actively put your mind there and be aware of the things. Like I said earlier, I can be aware that I'm counting or that I'm doing certain things based off of my mental health and the things that I know about myself. But you only get that awareness by asking yourself those questions, like you said, Dad, where it's like,
And
is this
with
the right
all
path
the
for me?
yeah, and with all the new science that they have out about, how addictive shit is. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's just,
social media is like cocaine, you guys.
oh my God. I just look at my entire life and see loops where I'm into, a pattern. And here's how you can tell, really, in my opinion, it's based off personal experience, is that if I'm pretty fulfilled and joyous and optimistic and setting my sails, and I'm constantly looking at my GPS getting to a destination that I want to go to, um the journey and my days not only go fast, they go extremely fast. But I'm so caught up in it. It doesn't feel bad to me. So a lot of people are doing shit on a day-to-day basis, your job or whatever. And it's just, oh my God, this is fucking just another awful day, same shit, same stuff. You know what I mean? And that kind of programming is just as addictive as anything else that you've done that's addictive. It's this constant state that nothing's going to get better. It's just going to get worse. And the phrase that I was going to bring up is that, when I leave this planet, my goal is to have a few individuals that went, that guy made a hell of a fucking difference into me. He got me to think better. He got me to be aware on what I needed to do, to constantly going, wow, I didn't even realize that I was tuned into the wrong channel. Fuck, I need to get back to that other channel where I'm excited to get up in the morning and I'm wide awake, and I can't wait to get on that journey to improve other people's lives and improve my lives, because that's the only way you're going to do stuff. The only way is by you every day, or doing Kaizen, constantly self-improvement. And if you get better every day in every way, then you're going to have the people that you love the most. You're going to be an example for them, and they're going to take risk and not try to be like everybody else. Instead of being ordinary, they're going to make attempts to be extraordinary, and that will set them apart for the rest of their fucking lives. And then guess what? They're raising the next generation that gets to look at them. So, changing yourself is how you change the family unit. And from the family unit, maybe you build an influence around a group of people over the years, and then they change their families. So, that little ripple, that little butterfly effect. I'd rather focus on that than being plugged into somebody else's matrix.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's a great place to end it, because like I think the ripple effect of those types of things are, and I've shared this on like other ones, right? Like doing a good deed and stuff, but all these things are like a reflection of you as a person, right?
Right.
If you're thinking, man, I am selfish and narcissistic, and you hate yourself for that, odds are you're probably not selfish and narcissistic if you hate yourself for being that way. Because people that
Wow.
are that way don't. They love that about themselves. So like
Right.
it all comes back to getting out of your brain and getting into your mind and looking at everything, giving it a good hard look and going, what parts are me? What parts are my parents? What parts are my friends? What parts are what I consume on a day-to-day basis? And can I do anything about any of those things? Do I want those things to stay
Yeah.
that way? Right? Because if you start your day, and I've noticed this and said this, if I start my day with scrolling, then odds are my day sometimes ends up pretty shitty, unless of course what I'm scrolling through is inspiring stuff, right?
Yeah.
But if I start and it's like, oh man, what happened with the news today? And then like the top 10 news articles are all bad shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like
Well,
that
like we
sets
talked
your
about,
pace.
we can go ahead and close this out. Let Craig have the last word. But when you do go down that rabbit hole or whatever it is, don't you find yourself now listening to others' opinions on what the thing was? It's not only doesn't no one, in my opinion, there's not one individual that knows the facts. And on top of the facts, there's everyone's opinions about the 400,000 different religions. I think that if you just were aware that everyone's adding to the story or subtracting for the story, and then to be significant, I got to put my own spin on this shit. You know what I mean? I gotta bring up something that no one ever thought of. And it's really, really sad that we live in a world that the people that get the most attention are the people that say the most outrageous fucking shit, like 1000% not based on fact or truth at all.
That's existed many times in history. This is just a
Yeah.
roadblock that exists.
This is just
It's
another step.
yeah. You have to.
Another thing,
Unfortunately,
another
you
period
have
in
to
time
have.
that-
Go ahead, Craig.
No, go ahead, man. I know
I was
where
just
you're
gonna
going
say
with
it's
this.
like just the you at some point through history, always it seems we have a disconnect from one another and a extreme focus that grows larger and larger on individuality. And this individuality grows to such a place that we start thinking our impact on the world and the way that we perceive the world is the way that it should be. Now, normally these people are like fascist leaders or dictators that think this way, but because of social media and its ability to refine it all and give you what a king used to have, which is all the yes men that you talked about, except now it's the internet and it's telling you you're right, you're right, you're right, you're right. How hard is it then to be told that you're wrong by somebody else? Or how easy it is it to tell somebody else that they're wrong because they don't believe exactly what you want? And so like I think the disconnection from a lot of that stuff, and as we go, or the disconnection from one another and society and community, has brought an individuality to that place. And like through history, there will be a large amount of individuality. People will go, this is the way it needs to be. There might be wars. There might be all these different kinds of things that will happen. Ash, and then from the ash, new will grow. And the new stuff that will grow will be a better, more refined version of the original ideas. And that's normally the way that humanity's worked. You can go far back as you want, right? And that's the way that it works. It's good to keep that in mind and be like, listen, I'm just an observer of this, but I'm a participator in my own life. I'm not a active, I don't know. It's seriously crazy. Well, it's seriously crazy to me to think that there's certain people that think if they get on and say things or spout things or share things, that they're actively making a difference.
Ugh.
Right? That they've talked themselves into that's the way that you make a difference, instead of doing it through inspiration, doing it through encouragement, doing it through those ways. That if you bully another group of people, eventually they're going to nominate someone you didn't want to be nominated, and that person's going to win.
Well, I never
and that
thought
goes,
about it.
That goes
yes,
both directions.
Wise words,
both directions. So no matter who wins this cycle, in 8 to 10 years, the directions in the cycle are going to go the other way, except we're going to have learned things. That's what's going to happen. So that's my last word, Craig. It's on you now. So,
well, no, I have nothing to follow except the fact that, the discussion of when the noise gets louder, I think we just got to keep in mind that we got to take a step back and actually think about what it is that we are about to say, about to do, about to think. And is it, Robert, I think that post that you posted up early is fantastic when it comes to this. Is it true? Is it helpful? Is it inspiring? Is it necessary? Is it kind? If it's none of those, please consider not even doing it or saying it or thinking it or making a reaction to it.
Yeah. And when I posted that, one of my best friends that I've known forever, this was his response. Unfortunately, you know me very well, Robert, and I speak how I feel and really don't care what other people think. Probably why I've been in Facebook jail. And this was my response. I do know that about you. You just have to accept people for who they are, friends for life. It's like me taking my time to tell another person that they got to change the way they feel. What a fucking waste of time.
Well, wisdom for me at least was coming to the realization of how much of a waste of time that is. That
Yeah.
no one, listen, one of the things we never do, and this is something that I've learned to get better and better at in my life, is to deconstruct my own thoughts and feelings in the way that I think about things. If I'm looking at something and observing it one way, odds are I have had some influence in making that process. And it helps to get into that process yourself and go, what were those influences? Do I feel this way because of this? Have I been watching too much news lately? And that makes me think the world's going to blow up or end any moment now, right? So yeah, when you say someone that says, you know, and I know these people where they go like, I'm vocal, I give my opinion, and that's the way that it is and everything like that. And my answer to that would be, have you ever thought about understanding how to communicate with the people that you give your opinions to?
Yeah.
The way that they
Oh
hear
my
you?
God.
Because one of the things I learned through therapy and couples therapy and the stuff that I've done in my life is that one of the biggest mistakes you can make is try to communicate in your language to somebody else. Because to you, a word like, why aren't you getting this, might not be offensive, because maybe to you it's motivational or whatever. Not exactly the best example, but
No, I thought it was.
But it works that way. And you realize as you get out in the world and you start doing things and meeting people and making friends, that certain things that don't rub you the wrong way do rub other people the wrong way.
Yeah.
And it's not,
Exactly.
If you go from a place and go, listen, I'm just honest, I'm just blunt, it's on them. The way that they react is on them. Then you're taking yourself out of the equation and saying, I no longer want to be a part of their lives and understanding how they communicate. And so why would they ever try to figure out how you communicate? Right.
Like, I know David Beckley will never watch this podcast, but I have to put myself in a pretty positive state for quite a while, like a few hours, to spend time with him.
Well, yeah, because some people, they do drain you.
I know when I'm hanging around him that I get to hear this crazy perspective of the world and what's going on that I don't live in. You ever have anyone give you an explanation of a world that you don't think exists?
Oh,
when you're
gosh.
when you're a
Especially with family.
storyteller and I'm like an observer of people, you all of a sudden start to like those people and you don't hate them as much because they're good material.
Oh, yeah. So when I
I know what that character is going to be like.
Yeah, when
I've just met them.
Yeah. And so there's certain individuals that I just feel were stuck in time. And of course, they become who they hang around. And I'm getting wiser. You know, you always hear that when you really focus on people that are wise, you hear the statements like, you know, you never argue, you know, with a right fighter because they practice every day and they're going to kick your ass. No, you didn't get anywhere, but they're so argumentative. They're such right fighters. They're so opinionated that you try to reason with them. You try to, you know, try to get them to expand their horizons and their thoughts a little bit and their perspectives, and it ain't happening.
Yeah, one of the things I learned is like, you don't want to have an argument with someone that has to argue so much that they have to talk themselves into it every single time they argue. Like it's a difficult situation to be in when they're like, they bring the whole book out to argue with you, and it's like, dude, it was just one subject or whatever, and that ends up being the case because they need to talk themselves into it consistently, instead of just thinking about it, you know, right. or what they're doing. Mm-hmm. So
in the podcast that we did called Bullshit, I mean, it's how, you know, I still find it fascinating. See, it used to piss me off. It used to make me feel bad how ignorant people were. And to think that I'm at a place in my life now, again, if when you know better, you do better. Now I just know they're on their path. They got on a certain road, and all the people that they know and love are on a certain road, and they just never ever took an exit. It's like they never, as they're going down the highway of life, they never went, wow, it says that if you take this next exit, you could actually see the Grand Canyon. And so their perspective is, you know what? The world's pretty fucking flat. In fact, I think the earth is flat. And you're like, dude, take an exit. Fucking
That goes to, you know, we could end it on this because we just hit the top of the hour, but it's like all of us could use a little touching of grass. We could all go outside, take a walk, take a breath. It's summertime, you know, and when shit really starts to get to you, like I think going on a walk, like at least for me, really helps because then it just recenters you. It gets you back to the place that you're just a human being on this planet flowing through space doing I don't know what, you know what I mean? We're just doing our shit.
And for me, I have a playlist of my ultimate favorite songs. And I'm not perfect, but I can grab my phone and go for that playlist and feel my energy change. I know the songs in the order that they are. They make me emotional. They put me in states of mind that I really loved and enjoyed in certain parts of my life. And it just puts me back. It puts me back in time of when things were better than what I currently feel. And it just projects me and plugs me back into the matrix and my matrix, my world that I created. And I'm okay. I'm like, bam. And so I can't listen to that playlist and then go back and scroll. It won't let me. It's like, dude, you're going to lose all this. Turn on the channel of the TV or go and scroll. And that feeling's going to be fucking gone in a millisecond.
Yeah, it can get hijacked pretty quick. That's why it's so good to understand yourself and know what gets you in state. I'm similar.
Yep.
Like I have whole playlists dedicated to feelings, dedicated to ideas, dedicated to stories. So if I ever want to not be here, I could put my headphones on, lean back in my chair, close my eyes and watch from start to finish my films and shit with all the music in there and everything is in here. So that I think is such a great thing to share, Dad, because I think figuring out what that is for you, figuring out how to get yourself into a state where you feel inspired and excited and all those things are very important. Yep. But with that said, guys, we're right at the top of the hour here. I think this was an amazing podcast. Craig, awesome. Do you have anything to share before we end it?
Okay. If I can, just the last little bit is I agree with what you guys are saying about the music. You know, that's something that I've always had as my step away from the whatever it is that's got me going, that's got me hyped, that's got me tense, and put on some nice music that will calm me down. Use my headphones. And I think if everybody, maybe something to think about as we go forward. You know, Matt has said he has a playlist. Robert does. I do. Why not create your own playlist of music that kind of takes you away from where the stresses are of your day and just lets you reset? And whether it's even the music or, as Abraham Hicks likes to say, meditation, whatever gets you away so that you can reset and restart what it is or what you are doing or who you are, so that you can become that better person. I think that's a great thing to do.
I just really quickly, I've used AI to find the songs that are, you know, what's your favorite word? Inspiration, uplifting, you know, things that give you hope, you know. And the one thing that I love about what we just talked about is there's some songs that are my favorite songs today that were not my favorite songs even 4 years ago. And it's me leaning on AI and going, you know, what are some of the movies or what are some of the music that really set itself apart in its age and time? You know what I mean? And so I love not only listening to the song, but I'll pull up the lyrics and I'll listen and I'll follow those lyrics. And there was one by Crofts. I was looking for it, really. Seals and Croft, I forget what it
Seals
is.
and Crofts is the name of a group. Yeah.
Yeah. But it was like the only answer is love.
Oh,
Yeah, and I don't remember, but I remember when I listened to that song and listened to the lyrics of it, it makes me freaking emotional. It really, really does, because what I think is really amazing about stories, songwriting, movie writing,
Creativity.
script writing,
Yeah.
it's like you'll notice that everybody always says, right now it's the worst it's ever been. And you can listen to songs in the 60s and the 70s where, wow, those bands were dealing with the same shit. They're, where everyone's like, can you imagine, by John Lennon, you know what I mean? It's like, what if there wasn't all this hate and bullshit? And, it's like, so, do that for yourself. I can guarantee you, it's like we always talk about plugging in, you know what I mean? Being hardwired. I think this one was all about unplugging, fucking reach up there, click that little tab and fucking pull out of that shit.
At least for a day, and just talk to
Yes.
yourself, see how you feel. So
Yeah. Thank
All
you,
right.
Greg.
Well,
Thank you, Matt.
Matt, Robert, thank you. You can follow Robert Hollis at roberthollis.com. Also, if you'd like to join our exclusive community, the Inner Circle and the Imaginator, both communities, you can join us by going to roberthollis.com/join to register. There will be lots of great exclusive content, and you'll be able to participate in our special breakthrough sessions to help you move on to the next level. Please don't forget to like and share this video on YouTube with others. It will help us grow our community and reach those with ears that hear. Thank you, and shout out to our executive producer, Matt Hollis. Bless you, my friend. Thank you so very much. And of course, our GPS to success, our friend, our mentor, Robert Hollis. And thank you for joining us today. My name is Craig A. Jackman. Please, until next time,
yeah,
be
we got
good
a
to
pointer.
yourself, be cash, and bye-bye for now.
Thank you guys so much for watching. Go ahead.
The song is Love Is the Answer.
Yes.
Love Is the Answer by England Dan and John Ford Coley.
Yes, an amazing song.
Okay.
Well, we'll all listen to it after this. So thanks, Dad.
All right.
Love and appreciate you guys.
Have a great day. Thanks for watching, everybody. We appreciate you.
Thank you for watching.
And a quick shout out to Bill Shoemaker. He sent me some money on CoinZoom.
Oh, nice. For the kids.
The rest of you can contribute if you want to with the buttons like Craig said. So we love your contribution and your donation. We'll make sure it gets to people in need.
Thank you guys.
Bye-bye.
See you later. Bye.